One day, a Canadian-American physical educator, physician, chaplain, sports coach, and innovator invented what some people believe to be one of the greatest sports in history, basketball. His name was Dr. James Naismith. He invented the game in December of 1891 in Springfield, Massachusetts, where the winters were very cold. The game was originally created to keep the students active in PE during the cold winters because they couldn't go outside. It only took him 2 weeks to make the game that transformed the world of sports. He started the game with a soccer ball, 2 peach baskets, a ladder, and a rule book with 10 rules. He made the sport for men, and the history of women's basketball didn't start until Cinda Berenson adapted the rules and got women involved. This happened in 1892 and forever changed the world for women. Cinda is also known as the mother of basketball. She was born in Lithuania, but her dad, Albert, immigrated to the United States in 1874, where he settled in Boston. He became a peddler and changed the family's name to Berenson. Cinda moved here whenever she was 7 years old and was homeschooled by her father. She went to school for music but couldn't finish because of her health, so she joined gymnastics because she believed physical activity would help her. She was only the second woman to attend her gymnastics school, so it was clear from a young age that she had a drive and would make a difference one day, not only in the world, but in the women's world as well. Cinda joined the staff at Smith College after finishing up her gymnastics school, and within a year after joining the staff, she read about the new game created by Naismith that had been invented as a class exercise for boys. She observed the game being played at the YMCA Training Center in Springfield and attended a physical education conference at Yale University to understand what the game was all about. At that convention, she met the game's inventor, Dr. James Naismith, and received his encouragement to adopt the sport as a team exercise for her female students. Women of that time did not participate in team sports, which were viewed as too strenuous. They did participate in individual sports such as horseback riding, hiking, rowing, swimming, golf, fencing, archery, and tennis. But Cinda knew there was something different about basketball. The physical aspect would keep the girls healthy, and the social aspect would teach them lifelong communication skills. In order for her idea to be accepted, she modified the original rules of basketball for her female classes as a means of exercise, stressing socialization, and cooperation rather than competition. She allowed only 6 team members to play on the court at one time. She divided the court into 3 sections from which players were assigned and remained throughout the game. She believed this prevented the women from overexerting themselves, running all over the court, and prevented exceptional players from dominating the game. In order to make the game more compatible for women, in 1903 they shortened the halves from 20 minutes to 15 minutes. To eliminate physical contact, her rules disallowed players from grabbing the ball from other players' hands, and players could not dribble more than 3 times before passing or shooting the ball, nor could the player hold the ball for more than 3 seconds at a time.
Balls had to be shot with only one hand, as using 2 hands was believed to flatten the chest and restrict breathing. Guarding was forbidden and falling down was a foul. She made all of these rules to keep the game safe and fun. It wasn't until March 22, 1893 that Cinda had the first official game of women's basketball. At that game, no male spectators were allowed. As the news got out about women's basketball, multiple universities were adding women's basketball to their intramural activities, and it was becoming more popular. In order to make the game more official, Claire Gregory Beyer published the first official rule book for women's basketball in 1895. This book was called Basquetta. Beyer's rules, much different than Berenson's, divided the court according to number of players on its side. 11 sections of 11 players, 7 sections of 7 on the side. No dribbling or guarding is allowed. A player is given 6 seconds to aim and shoot the ball. No backboards are allowed. Players may run only when the ball is in the air, and then only a few steps within their area. Goals are changed after each score so that offensive and defensive roles are reversed. In women's basketball, a two-handed push shot and two-handed pass was a foul. This is unique and great for women's basketball because it wasn't until 40 years later that the men developed this technique. After the rule book was published, Stanford and the University of California at Berkeley played their first women's intercollegiate game. Stanford won 2-1, and men were still excluded, with women guarding the windows and doors to exclude men. Women's basketball was seen too strenuous by a lot of people, and a lot of people did not agree with women playing sports. But as the game grew, they knew it would be important to fix the differences in the rule books. They believed one set of rules would help the game grow and become more accepted. In order to try and accomplish this, Newcomb adopts official rules for women's basketball in 1922. While the rules are revised every year to make the game better, this really helped the game grow because everyone was on the same page. 8-minute quarters were introduced with 2 minutes between quarters and a 10-minute halftime. Coaching was only allowed during the break between quarters. It is believed that they changed the game to 4 quarters to give the girls more rest, since they were playing with the men's rule and society believed that women needed more breaks than men. The rule book allowed women's basketball to make a leap and stride to become a part of the Olympics. It was a long process, but by building committees and organizations to support the game and women's rights, the game was able to thrive and push through its challenges. After a few years of fighting, women's basketball was included at the Olympics as an exhibition event in 1924 and was again held as an exhibition game in 1928 Olympics. Since it was just an exhibition game, they created the AAU, which stands for Amateur Athletic Union, that sponsored the first ever National Women's Basketball Championship using men's rules. They wanted people to respect women's basketball as much as men. They wanted to show that they were just as capable as them. In 1929, the first AAU All-American team was selected and made a huge impact on women's basketball. In 1931, Babe Ditcherson led the Golden Cyclones to an AAU national title. This was huge at the time because women's basketball was starting to prove that they belonged. It wasn't until 1930s that officiating was added and defense was allowed on all planes. This made the game more eventful and exciting. At this point, the game has changed tremendously and is now only a 2-court game with just 6 men on the team. 3 forwards who were allowed to score and 3 guards who weren't allowed to score. This helped the game gain fans because it was more fast-paced and competitive. In 1966, the game added traveling and continuous dribbling, which paints a better picture of how basketball is played today. In order to move down the court, you must dribble and bounce the ball continuously. If you pick the ball up, you may not dribble again until the ball is passed. In 1971, women's basketball changed to 5-on-5 full-court basketball with a 30-second shot clock, and that remains today. This means that every player on each team will have to run the full 94 feet. The game is no longer broken into 2 courts. The shot clock controls the speed of the game, and it doesn't allow other teams to stall because they have to get the shot off before the buzzer goes off. As this video shows, the game of women's basketball adapts to the culture of the world we are living in and will continue to change. It was a game that started with a soccer ball, 2 peach baskets, a ladder, and a rulebook with 10 rules. Today, in 2015, women's basketball is played on a 94 by 50 foot court with a 10 feet goal on each side. The game is played in 4 10-minute quarters with 2 minutes between each quarter and a 15-minute half. There are timeouts, referees, and coaches involved to help facilitate the flow of the game. While the rules and time frame of the game might be constantly changing, Cindy Barrison's idea remains true. Basketball can be used to improve health, social skills, and used as an activity to have fun. The game of women's basketball has changed dramatically over the years. But if it wasn't for James Naismith inventing the game and Cindy Barrison having the courage to modify it into a women's game, the world of sports just wouldn't be the same. Women's basketball at all levels gives students and a people a chance to be active and healthy, learn about time management, build relationships, compete in a respectful manner, learn about sportsmanship, and helps a person become healthy. Thanks to Cindy Barrison, the dreams of young women are continuing coming true.